This afternoon, I am attempting for the first time to see if I can build oil pressure on the newly rebuilt motor. And on a previous video, I've shown trying to backfill the oil pump from the oil pressure gauge port. Also putting some oil down in the line leading to the head of the oil filter. And the oil filter is full, but I'm not building oil pressure. I've tried turning it over, giving it some 10-second bursts, and I'm just not seeing any oil pressure buildup. Disconnected the oil line from here and wasn't seeing any oil coming out. I'm just making sure that maybe there was a blockage in the line going to the little oil filter, oil pressure gauge that I've got. So I went back to square one and started doing a little bit of research. And it turns out that let me get this back in here, that the 948, 1098 actually have an oil priming port, which is right here, right next to the drain plug for the block, little petcock here. The oil filter sits right back at the back of the engine, but and I had primed that, but I wasn't too sure because I've kind of moved the engine back and forth, so I was not too sure about excuse me, if I had lost the oil that was in there to be primed. Excuse me. So what I've discovered is that right here is the oil priming port for a 948, 1098 engine. And tried a couple of sockets and bolts. That wasn't working. And so, as it turns out, yep, that's one of those Wentworth sockets, necessary Wentworth size spanner. So this is a 5/16 Wentworth. And when we put it onto the bolt head, of course, it works just perfectly. So we're going to remove this plug and try adding some oil, priming it here, which should drain right into the oil pump, and hopefully we get oil pressure without having to remove all of this. I really don't want to do that. So that's what we're going to try next. So adding oil over to the oil priming port did not seem to make any difference. And I kind of hoped that it would show up as, topped up, where it just wouldn't go down, and maybe I could rotate the pump and then that would kind of draw it down. But that didn't seem to be the case. Seemed like it just, would fill depending on the volume and then just kind of drain down, and I'd be able to put more in. So that didn't solve the problem. So I decided I'm going to come over here. The only thing I hadn't checked so far is the oil pressure relief valve, which had been installed by the machine shop. And so I decided, well, let me take a look, see what's going on with that. And as it turns out, besides the cap itself, there was the return spring, but that was it. So the components that should be in there are these. So there's that'll either be a ball or a valve, I guess we'll call it, like this, and that goes into a hole, and that remains shut. That keeps the oil closed at that point until pressure would build up that would overcome the spring pressure and allow oil to still flow. So this valve was missing. Now, whether that's going to be a critical part to this, my initial problem of no oil pressure, I don't know. But let's get this installed. So it's that valve, the spring goes in there. Should have a brass crush washer that goes on like so. And that's basically our, I'll get you out of there. That's basically our unit. And then that'll all go into that hole. The key to getting one of these things in once it's under pressure, because that spring's got quite a bit of tension to it, and you don't have much room to get your hands in here. So the key is to find the sweet spot on this bolt that you only need to turn it like about one flat, and then you're locked in. So in this case, I've got, where'd you go here? Right here. This part of the bolt has got this little scratches in it. So when I do this, I want to start with that scratch at the top. That means I can just start it in there, and by about one flat turn, I should be locked in. It takes a little bit of doing, but sometimes if you can just get a socket over that kind of a humpty part on the out here and can hold pressure while you're able to spin it, you can get it started. That was helpful for me at this point. So I've got it on there, springs in, valves in. We'll just tighten this up. I think that's about 40 pounds torque, so that's just pretty tight. It is the next day here at Patty's Garage, and I have got an update on my oil pressure issue. It's been preying on my mind. I've actually ordered new gaskets just in case I had to pull all of this back off again and reprime that pump. So I ordered new gaskets for both the pump and for the backing plate. And so overnight, I've been giving this some more thought, what I'm going to do. But I thought, oh, what the heck? I'm just gonna. I've done all that I can do. I mean, the other suggestions were to like tilt the motor back so that when I was filling that priming port over there into the pump, tilt it back so that when you're putting oil in there, it would naturally flow into this oil pump. The conventional wisdom that I've seen is that at least on this engine, none of this stuff is just going to fill up and like reach a level that would just sit at the top of whatever port you're trying to fill. Everything just kind of leaks down into the sump. So I thought, what the heck? Let's give it a try. So my first attempt at doing this, to eliminate any kind of guesswork, because this is a clear pipe and you should be able to see if oil is going through it, but I just wasn't too sure. So my first try was to just take that fitting off of the oil pressure port that goes to the oil pressure gauge and see if any oil came out. And after doing some cranking on this, I was able to actually see some oil come out of there. So that was like, woohoo, So here's, I'm going to kind of march through the little bit of the control module here. This wide angle view makes it look gigantic. And we'll just kind of memorialize the first spinning of this with an oil pressure gauge actually hooked up and see what we're getting. Well, here's a bird's eye view of what I call the test stand and the control module. As time goes on, when we're actually running the engine, I'll probably go into this a little bit more detail. But for today's test, we've got engine pump primed. I've had it cranked over and actually had some oil coming out of the pressure line. So that allowed me to go ahead and hook up the oil pressure gauge. I had an old Smith's gauge that the water temperature the line had broken, but the oil pressure was still good. So that's my oil pressure gauge. And let me come down here. I've got my this goes to the starter. Let me just come around up here and just clamp that on the back end of the starter. And then I've got my other, this goes to a ground. And since I've got my little hold down clamps are grounded right to that motor, we're good. These are running off of the battery at the base of the command module. And so all of this is just to kind of help facilitate this process, make it easy to turn things on and off again, keeping everything stable. So I do have a master switch over here, so we just turn that on. Got this fancy switch panel over here. And of course on a Sprite, normally it's got a little pull cable that actuates the solenoid, but this is running through, this is a kind of a relay box over here, and we've actually got a push start for the engine. So let's give it a little spin. We'll kind of watch the gauge here. That'd be the upper part. We can see that we've got oil coming that's pumped all the way up into the rocker shaft, and that we had just cranking it over. We had about 50 pounds just on the starter. So once this thing really gets to cranking, I imagine we're going to be up to around 70 pounds. So this is a big day in the life of this little 948 motor. It will. That means everything can start getting buttoned up. I can reinstall spark plugs. What I may do is just kind of leave this at this stage. Do a little static timing at the distributor so that I can still see where top dead center is, and kind of march through a little bit of that static timing process while it's up here on the bench, and go from there. So, but major breakthrough here. This was the original problem. This engine needed to get rebuilt because it wasn't building oil pressure. It would initially build oil pressure, but wouldn't hold it. So major success here, and really thrilled.